Order. The Pledge of Allegiance this morning will be led by Jessica Loy, Caroline Loy, and Lily Fehrbach from Swigert International School in Denver.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll do 1 second. Let's take one picture. Members, can you remain standing? We're going to have the singing of the national anthem from the Greeley Chorale. Representative Young.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's with great pride and it's an honor to present the Greeley Chorale. Founded in 1964, the chorale has a reputation for musical excellence not only throughout Colorado, but around the world. Starting in 1985, the chorale has embarked on international concert tours every few years, including performances in London, Beijing, Shanghai, Sydney, Brisbane, Vienna, Edinburgh, Rome, and Athens. Just last year, the group's 8th international concert tour consisted of concerts in the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. The upcoming 2014-2015 season is the 50th anniversary season of this world-renowned group. The chorale is by audition only community chorus, comprised of people from all walks of life, conducted by Dr. Galen Darrow of the University of Northern Colorado College of Performing and Visual Arts, and now with 100+ voices, the Greeley Chorale is proud of its heritage of musical excellence and is pleased to perform before the Colorado lawmakers today. In addition to the national anthem that you just heard, the chorale is singing The Girl I Left Behind Me, part of the Celtic repertoire they performed in Ireland, and the Colorado Trail, a salute to our awe-inspiring state. So without further ado, let's continue the performance. Thank you.
Lord,
Representative Young.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm proud to call these folks my friends. I appreciate them taking time to come down and entertain us here at the Capitol. And if I may, Mr. Speaker, I'd also like to identify and acknowledge my wife, Dr. Mary Young, back in the back of the room. So.
Thank you, Representative Young, and thank you, Corral, for joining us today. Mr. Kohler, please take the roll.
Representatives Becker, Buck, Buckner, Conti, Coram, Court, Del Grosso. You know I need those. Okay. Dorr, Duran, Everett, Exum, Fields, Representative Fields, Fisher, Foote, Garcia, Gardner, Giroux, Janal, Hamner, Holbert, Hullinghorst, Humphrey, Joshi, Kagan, Kraft-Tharp, Labuda, Landgraf, Lawrence, Lebsock, Lee, Representative Lee, May, McCann, McLaughlin, McNulty, Milton, Mitch Bush, Moreno, Murray, Navarro, Nordberg, Pabon, Peniston, Pedersen, Primavera, Priola, Rankin, Rosenthal, Representative Rosenthal, Ryden, Sane, Salazar, Schaefer, Representative Schaefer, Scott, Singer, Sonnenberg, Stevens, Swam, Zabo, Tyler, Vigil, Waller, Williams, Wilson, Wright, Young, Speaker Ferrandino.
With 65 members present, a quorum, of course, is present. Representative Buckner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the reading of the Journal of April the 22nd
22nd, he was right.
be dispensed with and that it be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk.
You've heard the boring motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Announcements and introductions. Representative Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Everyone, listen up. I wanted to call your attention to the fact that today is Colorado Denim Day. Many of you remembered. But what is this all about, really? Well, Colorado Denim Day is a way of recognizing and promoting the idea of freedom from sexual violence. You need to know just some quick facts that 1 in 2 women and 1 in 4 men in Colorado have experienced sexually violent crimes in their lifetime. Persons with disabilities are sexually assaulted at rates more than twice the rate of persons in the other persons in the United States. And an estimated 20 to 25% of women will be victims of rape or attempted rape during college. And it goes on and on. So the Colorado Coalition Against Sexual Assault.
Hold on one sec, Representative Gardner. Members, I can't even hear Representative Gardner, and on this I actually want to hear Representative Gardner. So can we keep the side conversations down or take them off the floor? Thank you. Please continue, Representative Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, members, the origin of Denim Day is this, that in 1997 in Rome, an 18-year-old girl was raped by her 45-year-old cab driver, driving instructor, who was later convicted and sentenced, but he appealed. He was successful on his appeal because the chief judge noted that because the victim wore tight jeans, she must have assisted her perpetrator in her sexual assault, and therefore he was not guilty. The women, now this is important, female legislators, the women of the Italian parliament were so outraged that they went out on the equivalent of their West Steps the next day in denim to call attention to this, and this was the beginning of the worldwide Denim Day movement to protest against misconceptions that surround sexual assault, of which there are many. They persist here in Colorado and the United States, but also in countries such as India. And Colorado Denim Day is our way of calling attention. For those of you who wore denim today, the boxes are here on either side at the desk for $5. Don't feel limited to that. And if you didn't wear denim and feel really guilty, you can put in $10. But in any case, when someone asks you today about denim, don't miss the opportunity to talk to them about why we're wearing denim today. Thank you, members. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the time. Thank you.
Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And colleagues, the stars align because we have Denim Day at the Capitol. We're a little casual. And it's Colorado Sportsman's Day at the Capitol, sponsored by the Colorado Legislative Sportsman's Caucus and Rural Caucus. The good news is that the Sportsman's Day at the Capitol won't cost you any money. The displays are down on the first floor. For those of you that missed out on the coffee and donuts this morning before the session started, there's probably still a few left down there, but there won't be now that I've announced it. I just wanted to make sure that you all realize that Colorado sportsmen and women spend upwards of $1.3 billion, that's with a B, on hunting, fishing, and recreational shooting each year. And that's critical for maintaining the wildlife and the outdoors that we so greatly love. So I would ask that you please welcome to the chamber those who are have their displays down on the first floor. Up here in the gallery are the backcountry hunters and anglers, Cabela's, Colorado Mule Deer Association, Colorado Outfitters Association, Colorado State Muzzleloaders, Colorado Trappers Association, Colorado Youth Outdoors, Eagle Claw, Hunt Data, Jody Stemler Consulting, Mule Deer Foundation, National Wildlife Federation, National Wild Turkey Federation, SCI, Denver Chapter, Trout Unlimited, and the U.S. Forest Service. So welcome them to the chamber, if you would, please. Welcome to today. The schedule for today, coffee and donuts are on first floor with the first floor displays. Lunch will be on the east side of the Capitol. The world-famous hot dogs have been brought back to the Capitol, so that will take place on the east side. And at 1:30 in the Supreme Court chambers, the display folks, the ones who brought their programs, will be presenting in the Supreme Court chambers. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Ryden.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And members, I want you to welcome two of our RTD directors who are here today, Tom Tobiasen and Claudia Folksa.
Representative Hamner. And the Capitol Choir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Unfortunately, we don't have our chorale here, but we do have our choir, our in-house choir, to wish Representative Scott, who forgot to wear his jeans today, a very happy birthday. Are we ready? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Representative Scott. Happy birthday to you.
Representative Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And members, I didn't forget to wear my jeans today. I'm wearing jeans in spirit. I just didn't happen to have a clean pair of jeans that I brought down with me on Sunday when I came down. So thank you, Representative Gardner, for doing this. But there is another important birthday that we need to celebrate today, and I hope you'll all go out and celebrate the 450th birthday of William Shakespeare today. April 23rd, 1564, the Bard was born in Avon, and as you know, became the world's greatest poet and playwright that we've ever known. So help me celebrate William Shakespeare's birthday today.
Representative Melton. Oh, Representative Giroux.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, there are a certain portion of us that believe that Shakespeare did not do the writing. It was actually Edward de Vere. So if you don't want to celebrate, you don't have to. I'm a de Vere fan.
We can't get through anything in this chamber without some controversy. Representative Melton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And just a reminder for people, the the American United for Change is sponsoring the Raise the Minimum Wage bus tour, which is pulling into Denver today, and will be outside by the obelisk at noon for a special rally.
Representative Kagan.
Members, you are all public servants, and we in Colorado appreciate your public service, but there are many forms of public service that can be rendered in this.
Kagan. Members, can we have you're doing the tribute?
Yeah.
Members, can we have your attention for a tribute? Thank you. Representative Kagan.
As I was saying, members, there are many forms of public service, not only as legislator, and one of the most underrated, underappreciated, overworked forms of public service is that of city manager. City managers take on such a massive burden of work. They're responsible for massive budgets, massive projects, and in a very big way for the welfare of the citizens of the cities that they preside over. And they get little thanks, little praise, little applause, but just serve the public of the city day in, day out. It is a very high form of public service that should be appreciated more, and it is my pleasure this morning to acknowledge the public service of one of the great city managers who has long served Colorado, Mr. Gary Sears, who will be retiring after 42 years of public service. A measure of his accomplishments can be shown by a few examples. He took his master's in public administration and used those skills for the benefit of Colorado generally for 43 years. He's past president of the Colorado Municipal League. He serves, despite his busy life as currently the city manager of Englewood, he serves as an adjunct professor helping young people learn what public service is all about. He was responsible for the Englewood Transit-Oriented Project, the Englewood Light Rail TOD project. Englewood has more than $500 million in new development projects in the community right now, which Mr. Sears has been integrally involved in the success of. He has presided over a $114 million expansion of the Littleton Englewood wastewater treatment plant, which has been named one of the top 5 facilities of the year by a prestigious industry magazine. He has been involved in not only transportation, wastewater treatment, economic development. He has been involved, integrally involved, taking a leadership position in every aspect of Englewood life. And after 17 years, I believe it is 17 years, serving Englewood, he is now retiring. And I would like to join with all of you in giving him our thanks. Those are some examples of his achievements. But there is a measure of respect that Mr. Sears has enjoyed in Englewood most recently, and that measure of respect can be seen from the dignitaries from Englewood who are here, the mayor pro tem, the city council, members of the Englewood City Council, the police chief of the city council, the Human Resources Director, the Parks and Recreation Director, the Court Administrator, the Finance Director. They've all taken time out of their day to come here and help us pay tribute to Gary Sears. Also, a measure of his love he is born. His wife, his daughter are here as well. And I am so proud to be able to present on behalf of the General Assembly of the state of Colorado, in thanks for his many years of service to Englewood and other parts of Colorado, selfless service, professional service, public service, I am pleased to present this tribute to Mr. Gary Sears.
Thank you, Representative Kagan, and thank you, Mr. Sears, for all your years of public service. Further announcements or introductions? Seeing none, reports of committees of reference.
The Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, committee recommends following House Bill 1066 be amended as follows, and House Bill to be referred to the Committee for recommendation. House Bill 1332 be amended as follows, and House Bill to be referred to the Committee for recommendation. House Bill 1352 be amended as follows, and House Bill to be referred to the Committee for recommendation. House Bill 1377 be amended as follows, and House Bill to be referred to the Committee on Legislative Council for recommendation. House Bill 1384 be referred to the Committee for recommendation. Senate Bill 1 be referred to the Committee for recommendation. Senate Bill 8 and 29 and 117 be referred to the Committee for recommendation. Senate Bill 125 be amended as follows, and House Bill to be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. Senate Bill 129 be referred to the Committee for recommendation. Senate Bill 150 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. Senate Bill 189 be referred to the Committee of the Whole for recommendation. The Committee on Health Insurance and Environment, after consideration on the merits, committee recommends following. House Bill 1380 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. Senate Bill 50 be referred favorably to the Committee on Legislative Council. Senate Bill 99 be amended as follows, and House Bill to be referred to the Committee on Finance with favorable recommendation. The Committee on Public Health Care and Human Services, after consideration on the merits, committee recommends following. House Bill 1369 be amended as follows, and House Bill to be referred to the Committee on Finance with favorable recommendation. House Bill 1372 be referred to the Committee on favorable recommendation. Senate Bill 144 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. Senate Bill 130 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the following bills be placed on special orders for consideration today, April 23rd at 9:40, and the bills are House Bill 1383, House Bill 1381, HCR 1002, House Bill 1332, House Bill 1066, House Bill 1352, House Bill 1384, House Bill 1372, and Senate Bills 117, 29, 1, 150, 129, 8, and 189.
Seeing no objection, the bills listed by the Majority Leader will be placed on the special orders calendar for today. We will proceed to special orders. Representative McCann. Seeing no objection, the House will resolve itself in the Committee of the Whole for consideration of special orders. Representative McCann will take the chair.
Is ready? The committee will come to order. With your unanimous consent, the bills will be read by title unless there is a request for reading a bill at length. Committee amendments will not be read unless requested, as they are printed and in your bill folders. Floor amendments will be shown on the screen and not read unless requested. Bills will be laid over upon motion of the Majority Leader, and the Cope rule will be relaxed. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1383.
House Bill 1383 by Representative Williams, also Senators Talk, Drop, and Ulibarri, concerning the required number of physicians that must be provided to an injured employee for selection for treating physician and workers' compensation cases.
Representative Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I move House Bill 1383.
All right. Representative Williams, tell us about House Bill 1383.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And members, yesterday we heard House Bill 1383 in the Business Committee, and what I want to share with you is what House Bill 1383 covers. What the current statute says, we did not change anything in our current statute. What House Bill 1383 does is it only expands the choice for injured workers. 1383 increases doctors' choice by 100%. Workers in most parts of the states will now have 4 doctors assigned to them after the initial incident. They will choose one of the 4, and if they decide to make a one-time change within the first 90 days that is now already authorized in statute, this will be able to choose from the remaining physicians on their original designated list. This is a significant increase in doctor's choice for your constituents. House Bill 1383 does not increase costs or delay return to work. 1383 will not delay the return to work to their jobs. NCCI, which is the industry group for compensation carriers, has completed their analysis and believe that the impact will be negligible. I think that's very important for you to understand. It will not increase costs for our carriers or employers. And lastly, the bill protects exemptions for rural employers. It's going to expand the exemptions in rural Colorado to ensure that insurers in the small communities will not have to assign a level of doctor choice that cannot be achieved due to lack of available doctors in their area. The current law stipulates that if there are fewer than 4 physicians willing to treat injured workers 30 miles from the employer's place of business, then employers and insurers may only assign 1 physician to the injured worker. House Bill 1383 adds a second tier to this rule exemption by stipulating if there are more than 3 and fewer than 9 physicians willing to treat injured workers, then the employer's insurers may only assign 2 physicians to the injured workers. Now, this provision that is in most cases in rural Colorado, employers are required to do more than what they're already required to do in current law. House Bill 1383 came about because I heard from clients and I heard from workers' comp advocates that the current choice of 2 doctors was insufficient and that some employers were using this to their advantage to the detriment of injured workers. I also heard from employers that they liked the current system and they didn't want to change anything. So through months of negotiations and very productive conversations, we were able to forge this compromise. I think it's important for you to know that Casey supports House Bill 1383. The Denver Metro Chamber of Commerce supports House Bill 1383. The Colorado Competitive Council supports House Bill 1383. Pinnacle Assurance is neutral, and the Colorado AFL-CIO and WCEA support House Bill 1383. And members, I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion of House Bill 1383? Representative, Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Williams no longer being on the Business Committee, I wasn't able to be there for the testimony yesterday. But negligible to me, when they say it's going to be a negligible impact, means that it could be an impact. We really can't figure it out. It might be small. But even any impact at all to workers' comp prices, we now enjoy some of the lowest workers' comp insurance rates in the country, which is a plus, considering there's a bunch of other detriments to businesses being successful in Colorado. At least one of the things we can hold up to them is when you employ people, our workers' comp rates are relatively low, and that maybe helps to offset some of the other higher costs that we have. But my question is, was there a lot of testimony in committee yesterday to show that, gosh, there's this big rash of problems that are out there, and only having 2 doctors now, there's all these people that are being harmed, and so they've been able to show case after case after case where only having 2 doctors is somehow causing this big problem? Or is it all just kind of a theoretical problem that, well, only having 2 doctors could potentially cause trouble? And I guess I'm just, what's the premise? I mean, I have not heard that there was any problem at all with the workers' comp and how it was working, so I guess I'm trying to figure out where we're going with this.
Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Minority Leader. And you're right. Colorado has some of the lowest rates and one of the best workers' compensation systems in the country. And we acknowledge that. Currently, what we've had is, again, I've had clients and we've had some of the work comp advocates talk to the fact that if they're not receiving proper care, if they don't feel like they're getting better, that it would be a better situation if they were able to have a broader choice of doctors. And I agree with you. We have a good system. The system is not broken. We were looking to make improvements to a system. And as I shared with you, it doesn't change the current statute. And I would think that as an employer yourself, who probably carries workman's compensation insurance, I think that your workers would probably, and all of our constituents and those who own businesses, if our employees had a little bit more choice in regards to injured workers, that I think that's a positive thing. You discussed if there was a lot of statistics that were provided, and there was not a lot of statistics provided yesterday. We asked that question. Members of your caucus asked that question. And for those who testified in opposition, they were not able to give us some of those statistics in regards to doctor's choice. And so we had a lot of positive support for this bill, and we believe that the doctor's choice is going to improve the current system, and that is going to be better for our injured workers.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1383? Seeing none, the question before us, Madam Minority Leader.
Whatever I am, thank you, Madam Chair. I've been called worse, so thank you for that. Folks, like Representative Williams stated, yesterday we didn't get too many answers on some of the questions that we asked. And that leads me to believe, is this a solution in search of a problem? When I've talked to some of the business owners that I know in the state, they have said that it's a very low amount of people that do actually get referred to workman's comp. 1% of their workforce is the average of what they told me, and that they've seemed to have great outcomes with that these people are, getting healed to the best degree where they can come back to work, do a great job at work. So I don't want this just to be a solution that we had to work out because if there was another bill ran, it would, be worse than this and that type of thing. That's not what we're here to do. Another thing that kind of I didn't get an answer to, I asked several questions and didn't get an answer to also, is how they measure. The crux of this was that we need more choice in doctors because people aren't getting fully healed. So I asked how that was measured. How do you measure if someone is fully healed, ready to go back to work? Because if you have, for instance, you sprain your ankle on the job, it's kind of a two-way street. You have the doctor and you have the patient. And the doctor has a duty to provide, medication, good solutions, how the patient can become healed. But then they also might send them to physical therapy, where the physical therapist would give them exercises and certain things to do to strengthen what their injury is hampering. And if those exercises are not done, then that could hamper them getting back to work and their healing and all that. So there was never any way to measure it. So here we go again, another solution in search of a problem. I believe before we create laws, we have to really make sure that there's a problem. Not that there's, like I said before, another bill that might come that might be worse, so we're just gonna, make a solution for something that isn't totally a problem. I would have loved to been able to have all the questions answered in order to see what the actual problem is. That workers are not getting any choice. Another thing that I thought was interesting was the actual workman's comp doctors, the ones who this is their expertise, this is what they do, they are in the system of workers' comp. We heard there aren't very many of them anyway. And I asked the question, so if I have a back injury, are the extra 2 choices that are going to be offered back doctors, or could they possibly be foot doctors, or just medical doctors, that type of thing? That question was never answered either. In order to get a good healing and a good outcome, you must have a doctor that probably either specializes in that type of injury or is has some expertise there. That is going to help immensely, and maybe that's the part of the system that needs to be turned over and changed. So I don't see that we got a lot of answers to practical questions, and so I don't really see the actual need for this. So I ask for a no vote. Thank you.
Representative Ryden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And members, I think perhaps that some of the folks who came and testified assumed that we had a higher level of knowledge about the workers' comp program and how it works. And Representative Zabel, I think you've probably been really fortunate in your business that you haven't had to deal with these issues, and I congratulate you on that, because it appears that you've probably done a lot of training and safety work and have helped your employees keep from being injured. But essentially what happens with the doctor choice is that the insurance companies are the ones who give the list of doctors to the employer, and then they present those choices to their employees. And some of the testimony that really struck me yesterday was that research has shown that when the employee feels as if they have more control over their own health care and their own situation, including having choice of doctors, that they actually do better. They get back on the job quicker, and something like this is likely going to save money rather than cost more money. So I was really impressed with that research that they brought forward yesterday. Also, there is a process for these doctors. They're either certified or they're working under a doctor who is certified specifically in the workers' comp arena in terms of impairment and maximum DMMI. And so they already have that system. They're already taught in that system, as trained as to what to look for and how to make those decisions. So what it really, I have to say, members, that I think if you've come to the Business Committee this year, you know that our chair, Representative Williams, kind of has an unspoken rule that you must bring a diverse group of supporters with you on your bill. And that's exactly what Representative Williams has done with this bill. It's labor, it's employers, it's the entire business community is supporting this bill. So I believe that we also should follow their lead and support it as well. Thank you.
Representative Joshi.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative Williams, for bringing this bill. But my question on this area is, are you finding that physicians who are specializing in this area are not able to get on these networks? Because as you know, this is a subspecialty called occupational medicine. You have to be trained in this, you have to be board certified, and also there is so much other paperwork and other things which is involved in this that you have to be a specialist in this area. And I don't know any physicians who have already specialized in occupational medicine has been left out of any of these networks. Because I practiced that for over 10 years myself, and I had to be trained before I was able to do that. And so I know that these physicians are already getting on the network, and the patients are being referred to them. And if they don't like one doctor, there is always another one. So they have choices already. So I would really like to know if there is a problem, because I hadn't heard having a problem in this area.
Representative Szabo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Representative Ryden, you are right. Representative Williams does always bring a diverse set of opinions to committee, and I think the Republicans and the Democrats are a split opinion on that committee, and sometimes we agree and sometimes we don't agree. But what I wanted to state is, you mentioned that the employer gives them a list of doctors, but that is kind of the protocol of health insurance. When you sign up to go to Kaiser, you get a list of doctors to pay for. You don't just get to go find any doctor. When you sign up for any medical plan, you get a list of doctors you get to choose from. And you know, you can go out and search and talk to people and say, how was this doctor? What'd you think? And kind of do your own internal investigation. So that's really the insurance model at this point. I don't know that workers' comp you know, can change the model or do that. It's pretty standard. I know that all of us, you know, have. And if you can go get any doctor you want and don't have to pick off a list for your HMO, PPO, you're blessed.
Representative Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Representative Joshi, I wanted to share with you that there is a level 2 accreditation in which doctors have to qualify. They have to follow the guidelines that are set forth in our state. And we have 596 accredited doctors in our state. So it's just not a hodgepodge. There are some qualifications that doctors have to meet in order to be able to treat our patients. And Representative Szabo, you know, this is not a problem looking for the solution. But what I want to share with you is that we are expanding our doctor's choice, and that will be good for all of our constituents. And so I'll ask for an aye vote on House Bill 1383.
Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And members, one last time, I know we're reaching towards the end of the session and our attention spans are getting short, but I'm not going to stand here and say, gosh, if this bill passes, the sky is falling, it's going to have catastrophic effects on the workers' comp industry. I'm not going to stand here and say that. In the reality, in the grand scheme of things, does this really do a whole lot when it comes to changing the workers' comp system? And, honestly, it doesn't. But what it does do, and at the end of the day, and why I'm asking for a no vote from you, is even a negligible increase to a small business person is very impactful. Now, I could be a large employer with 100, 1,000 employees, whatever it is, and a negligible impact. Reality is I can afford to cut that deal and say, okay, I'll support this bill, because the reality is it could be a lot worse, and so I'm happy with what we got. But at the end of the day, a small business guy, somebody that has 4, 5, 10 employees or whatever, that's barely fighting to keep their doors open and has to pay any kind of increase at all because of this legislation, that is going to be severely impactful to that little guy. And anything that we do with this bill is a mandate now on businesses in Colorado. And so you have to decide. There was no evidence that was brought forward that actually substantiated that we actually needed to make a change for one. And so, two, since there was no evidence to prove that there was actually a problem that this was needed, why would you vote yes on a bill that would put more mandates on the businesses of Colorado? Even though it's a small minor change, it's still the principle of the matter that you are voting to have an impact on business and a mandate on business when there is absolutely no evidence that shows there is a problem that we need to fix. Ladies and gentlemen, that is why I'm voting no, and that's why I'm urging you to vote no as well.
Representative Lawrence.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I've reached out to some employers around my district asking for their opinions on this bill, and what I heard was that they sometimes have trouble finding 2 qualified physicians. So requiring that they have 4, and this is in the Denver metro area. Let me make that clear. That this is in the Denver metro area, that sometimes it's difficult to find 2 qualified physicians that they can send employees to for any kind of treatment. Saying that they need to designate 4, and the requirement is that that physician just has to be willing to treat those employees. Well, this is a specialty subgroup of medicine. You know, a family practitioner seeing someone with a workplace injury may not treat them appropriately. They may be willing to take them, but the treatment may not be appropriate. It may not solve the problem of that injury. And that's what this is about. It's making sure that when an employee is injured on the job, that we take care of them well, that we get them back to work as quickly as we can, and in the interim, you know, send them over to do alternate work at the company if they're able to do that, so that their employment continues throughout the treatment period. But increasing the number of doctors that employers have to designate can be a problem. And you know, right now, I haven't heard complaints about the workman's comp system in Colorado currently. So I just have to question why we're doing this, why we're insisting that employers have to select more doctors when there really aren't enough workplace injury doctors available to treat these workers. So I would ask for a no vote on this bill.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1383? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1383. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. House Bill 1383 passes. Mr. Kohler, please read the title to House Bill 1381.
House Bill 1381 by Representative Fields, also Senator Todd, concerning adoption of school closure plans as a requirement for closing a low-performing public school.
Representative Fields.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 1381 and the House Committee Report.
Is your microphone on? Oh.
I have a cold. Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes. Please say that again.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 1381 and the House Committee Report.
Thank you, Representative Fields. To the committee report.
Members, the committee report just addresses an important issue to make sure that we develop and update a plan when a school is considered low performing and they're thinking about closing that school. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on the Education Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Education Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The committee report passes. Representative Fields.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, House Bill 1381 is a bill that will require a communication plan when a school district decides to close a school. You may not know some of these statistics, but currently we have 190 schools that are either priority schools or turnaround schools. And because of their performance, they're on this 5-year clock. And out of the 190, we have 16 that are considered priority improvement or turnaround school districts. And when you do close a school or when you decide to disinvest in a school, I believe there should be a communication plan. And so that's basically what this bill does. It makes sure that everyone is involved and engaged in creating a plan about the process of closing a school. So I ask for an aye vote on House Bill 1381.
Is there Representative Wilson?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative Fields. One question I have is, what's the problem that we're trying to fix? Do we have school districts across the state that just say, we're closing a school, they close them with no planning whatsoever, and they're just gone the next day? What is that?
Right.
Representative Fields?
The problem that we're trying to fix is one that revolves community engagement. We all know how important it is to make sure that parents are involved with what's going on in their neighborhood schools. And when you decide to close a school, that is a very big deal. That's significant. And so there needs to be a lot of encouragement and thoughtful dialogue about the approach that's going to take place when you decide to close a school. So basically, this addresses a communication plan, a timeline for the closure, so students know where they're going to transition to. There's a lot of elements, there's a lot of components to closing a school, and they need to be thought out measures before we decide to close a school, and making sure that not everyone's involved or in the loop. So that's what we're trying to solve.
Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Representative Fields, where is this problem? Where are the school districts that don't have community engagement? In the education world, if you even hint that you're going to close a school, trust me, you have community engagement. And if you're going to close a school, because the community is engaged, you will have a plan, or you won't be employed as a superintendent. So where are these examples of the districts across the state that have closed a school with no community input, no plan, no reassignment of students? Where's that happening?
You know, I know of,
Representative Fields.
thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry about that. I know of incidents that had happened in Denver public schools, and we know that that's just one district. But when you think about 16 districts in our state that are facing the potential of closing a school, then that's going to reach far beyond just Denver. But in the Denver situation, we had a situation where the school was closed, and it was a lot of people in the community did not know about it, and there was an outcry because of that. And so what I'm trying to do is to make sure that everyone's really thoughtful about a timeline for closing a school. This shouldn't be something that's done in isolation. This should be something that is everyone is aware of, and everyone's involved and have input into what that timeline looks like. And it could impact up to 73,000 students in our state could be potentially at risk of some kind of school closure based on low performance. So I think this is a reasonable, thoughtful approach.
Sorry. Representative Giroux.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, Representative Fields, I represent part of Jefferson County, and Jefferson County is one of the most aging counties and communities, collection of communities in the state. We have a lot of seniors. I'm a great example of the fact that we're aging. And quite honestly, Representative Fields, I think, although I appreciate your intent, I guess, this looks like a solution looking for a problem, because in Jefferson County, I've monitored the closure of these schools, and I've not seen an issue. It could be a problem in Denver County, and if it is a problem within Denver County, I think the superintendent should be accountable for it. I agree with Representative Wilson, but I'm not seeing a problem in Jefferson County, and quite honestly, I'm not seeing any of the legislators from Jefferson County coming down here complaining that Superintendent Stevens did a bad job. I mean, she's done a very good job when she's closed schools, and I don't see a point for the legislation. I'll be a no vote.
Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative Fields, for answering my questions. But from what I'm hearing is that DPS closes a school, and now 177 other school districts are going to have to follow regulations on how they choose to close their schools. And with all due respect to this body, I don't think this legislative body really has the expertise to dictate how local school districts ought to go about closing their schools. They know how to do that. The districts I've been involved in across the state of Colorado know how to do it. They know how to put a plan together, and it's done to local level. I hate to use that term local control, but this is ultimately local control, how those districts should decide how they're going to close schools. And again, it's been my experience, Representative Fields, when the word gets out that we're going to do anything in our school district, we have public engagement. We have the community involvement. And if we were ever to say we're going to close a school, they will be there with the picks and shovels at the front door of the Board of Education building. They will have input. So this legislation, I believe, is one, unnecessary, and two, is essentially a slap in the face of the school districts who know how to take care of their problems. And if one school district has a situation, they should address that at that local level, and the other 177 districts should address it at theirs. So I understand what you're trying to do, and I respect that, but I'll be a no vote on this one.
Representative May.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just to address some of the issues, I appreciate the fact that Jefferson County does a great job. And this bill is specifically addressing schools that are on performance plans and have issues around their performance. Now, I recognize that your community is a little smaller and you have community involvement. Yeah, I come from an area that's highly urban, very poor, and I don't have that luxury. And in one little swatch of my area in Aurora, in the old part, I have 5 elementary schools on a performance improvement plan. And they're scheduled to have an issue this next year, 5, in a small radius. It's very important that there is a plan and it's not just done in a vacuum, because when these schools, they don't always close, they reorganize, they can become private. And then you have the problem of these kids no longer allowed to go to school in their neighborhood because how it was done. And unfortunately, the way our society is that the lower your income, it's not that they don't care, it's that they don't have time to keep involved in every little piece, and because they're working a couple of jobs to make ends meet. Now, I live in this community that I'm talking about. I have not received not one notice of a problem with the school that my granddaughter goes to that may be closed because it's on a performance improvement plan. So that's the need for the legislation. And it's not just about one school district. If you have it in 2 or 3, then this is needed across the state. If you don't have this problem, this bill won't apply to you. I mean, you'll do it naturally, and I wish I had that issue. But I have to represent the whole state sometimes and look at the bigger view. And I've supported lots of things that are not necessarily impacting my area because I understand your problem. I'm asking for the same consideration. Thank you.
Representative Moreno.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't think this legislation is unnecessary, nor do I think it's a solution in search of a problem, because this legislation very much matters to my community and very much matters to my school district. My school district is one of those districts that is on the clock, that is on a performance plan. And you should hear the concern from the community in my area about what could happen. What could happen when that clock runs out? And one of the options of those being to close schools. In my school, where there's a high level of childhood poverty, where mobility is already an issue, to close a school and to cut off access for those kids when they already have a hard time enough trying to find a way to school in the morning is unacceptable to me. When schools close, I'm not sure we completely understood when we gave the Charter School Institute or the State Board that flexibility to recommend those changes. I'm not sure we understood the gravity of what that does to a community. And so on behalf of my community and the concern in my community, I rise in strong support of this bill.
Representative Giroux.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to come down and respond to Representative May's comments You know, it's not that I don't believe that there may be an issue around the state. I mean, Jefferson County has a small area of Sheridan, which is a very low-income area. And I also know that the population base is changing in these schools, and I'm certainly sensitive to that. I'm also sensitive to the fact that the state is the one that's closing the schools. I get that, but I don't understand why we can't work in concert with our local school superintendents, because quite honestly, those superintendents are the ones most likely that have been working with the state on this. And if people have a problem because they're not getting notification about a school closure, it seems to me that that's something that they should be more engaged with their superintendent with, and the superintendent should be letting those school the populations of those school districts know. I'm not saying there's not a problem, but the worst thing I could see us do is get to a point where we view the state is ultimately responsible for a lot of the activities at the local and the county level or at the school district level. That is what I'm concerned about. And it's to me, the more we can get them to work together, the better off we are. If there are some individuals that need a plan, I'm talking about individual school districts, I get that. And I'm not saying that they may not need a plan. But what I'm saying is I'm not convinced that we need a state mandate that that every school would have to have a plan, because if the schools, quite honestly, I trust Jefferson County schools. The former superintendent Stevenson did a fabulous job, and I trust the work that she did over the state any day of the week. So I'm not convinced. I'm still a no vote. And it doesn't have anything to do with the fact that I don't believe that school districts have a problem, and I don't believe that we don't have improvements that can be made. I totally get that. But what I do believe in is the best solution is usually a local solution, and this isn't a local solution.
Representative Murray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd asked Representative Giroux to help me think this through, because it's the state closing the schools. It's not the local district closing the schools. So my concern is, if the state is closing a school, and there has not been, and I voted yes in committee for this bill, but I'm really listening hard because I'm leaning no now for local control. But the reality is this whole improvement plan has been set up by the state. So should we have some responsibility for ensuring that the communication is appropriate to local folks? And I would also ask Representative May, I mean, you said you were a grandmother and didn't get notification, but did the parents get the notification about the closure? So I'm wanting to open up this discussion a little bit, because we did not have this discussion in committee.
Representative Giroux.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Representative Murray, I appreciate the fact that you are listening. And I know that Representative May, by the way, is a fabulous grandparent, because she actually, I believe this daughter lives with her. So the fact that she didn't receive, with her mother, sorry, so the fact that she didn't receive notification, that would be an indication that there's a problem there. And I'm not doubting that there's a problem there. But what my concern is that the way the state is set up, the way we fund schools, everything should be on a more local level to allow those parents to have the control that they need to have. And while I'm not saying that all solutions are perfect and that there's not a problem around the state, I personally don't want to take away from what my school district has been able to do, because former Superintendent Stevenson did an excellent job. And I hope that the Jefferson County School Board hires someone equal to or better than Superintendent Stevenson, although that may be very difficult to do. But my point is that all of this leads back to a local issue, and I don't want to circumvent what the local school districts need and can and should be doing for their students. So I'll be a no vote.
Representative May.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just to be clear, in case my daughter is listening and it sounds like I took her granddaughter, I have an apartment in the bottom of my house that they rent. So they don't live with me per se, because I really don't want to go back to that. I'm an empty nester and very happy about that. But they didn't receive a notice, and there is a problem with that, the school district. The other thing I just want to be clear is that it's the state that's dealing with the issue with the schools, not the local schools closing. It's the state. And so that's why we need it's just asking for a plan. And we're acting like the school, which is on a performance improvement plan, right? It's having problems, it's struggling, and then we're acting like it's functioning in a correct way, and we know that's not the case, so that's why we're asking for the communication plan. I think it's a strong need. It's something that's really important, and if you have small children and you want to have them go to your neighborhood school, because that's how I grew up, and I'm sure that's how most of the people in the room did. And you're taking that right away because they're failing. And I, as a parent, would want to know that and get involved and try to be a part of that, because it's going to affect my everyday life. And if you're in a neighborhood that doesn't have transportation, that it's not easy for me to get across a town. And this occurs now, where the schools are full, and I have to go to the south side. So, I mean, it's just a plan. It's a prevention of a crisis that you can avoid pretty easy with this legislation, and I'm in strong support. And I ask, hopefully, that you'll listen to those of us who are actually in this predicament, who deal with this in their lives. It's not a hypothetical, I don't know what will happen if. I'm asking for your support. Thank you.
Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate you recognizing me again. I thought I'd finished what I wanted to say, but just to clarify, Representative Murray, on what you talked about, that the state closes the schools. Actually, they don't come in and padlock the doors and so forth. We called them on that several years ago, and Representative Hamner may have been in on that part when the state was saying, well, we'll come in and take over your school, and several of us said, come on. Bring it on. And Representative Schaefer may have been in on that. She said, I don't want to go ahead and run that school. So we tried that. So what it essentially is that the state will no longer accredit that school, and so you're going to have to make some changes there. And again, my question is, why do we elect local boards of education? Whether you're talking about the DPS system or Carville America out there, you've got local people elected to the Board of Education to take care of this process. So before I make my last summary statement, I've got to commend Representative May. You may not have heard what she said. That may have been the most profound thing that's been said in the well this morning. She said she understood my problem. If she does, I told her, talk to Christy. She's been trying to figure that out for a long time. But folks, and again, I appreciate what you're saying, Representative Fields. We'd love to have that perfect system, and I can guarantee you, standing here in this well, I can guarantee you, we put this in place. If DPS plans to close a school, there will be people that are dissatisfied and upset with the process that was used. We cannot legislate that. It's an election problem. It's not a legislative problem. If you don't like what's being done in your districts, re-elect your boards of education. They're the ones that make the decisions, and they will be the ones that have to put together that plan. It's not something we should be dictating from here. Thank you.
Representative Salazar.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative Fields, for bringing this bill. This is about community empowerment. It's pretty simple. I've been involved in a couple of school closure issues in the Denver metro area on behalf of the Latino community, and when they were shutting down those schools, they didn't reach out to the Latino community. There was no plan in place. The community was basically wiped out of the process, and there was a major uproar as a result. The next time they tried to do it, they got community involved and things went a little bit better. This is about community empowerment. I can't imagine anything more important in terms of local control as community empowerment. And so that's why this bill is necessary. Not all school districts are created equal. Not everybody communicates very well with the communities, and that's why this bill is necessary. Thank you.
Representative Hamner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to lend my support for this bill and thank Representative Fields for being proactive in this piece of legislation. Right now, in all of our school districts throughout the state, we have schools and school districts in priority improvement and in what we call the accountability clock. This just puts in place strategies that I think school districts will welcome as guidance in how to navigate this very complicated and very emotional process. I think when a change like this happens in a community, the biggest issue is around communications, and people never feel that they have enough communication. So I think that this is the right thing to do. I'd also say that there was no opposition in the Education Committee hearing, and I ask for your support. Thank you.
Representative Schaefer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I ask for your support of House Bill 1381. I just want to add a little bit of context. I had the opportunity to accredit school districts in Colorado for about 8 years, and it was very painful to me year after year after year seeing failing scores, low attendance, low graduation rate of nothing happening. And I think this is a very good bill that the school closure plan will address communications with the community. There will be a timeline for closure because we cannot let failing schools continue in our state. It is not fair for those children to have an education that is subpar. So I do ask for your support on 1381.
Is there any further discussion of House Bill 1381? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1381. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. House Bill 1381 passes. Mr. Kohler, please read the title to House Concurrent Resolution 1002.
HCR 1002, Representatives Court and Quorum, also Senators Crowder and Schwartz, submitted to the registered electors of the state of Colorado amendment to the Colorado Constitution concerning petition signatures required for citizen-initiated constitutional amendment in connection with requiring a proportion of the petition signatures for the amendment to be gathered from voters who reside in each Colorado congressional district, increasing the total number of petition signatures required for the amendment, excluding the repeal of the amendment passed prior to 2015 from these petition signature requirements.
Yay. Representative Court.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill is about incentivizing changes to statutory law, not our Constitution.
Move the bill.
Excuse me. Oh, yes, I move HCR 1002.
Thank you, Representative
and
Court.
ask for a favorable vote. Thank you. Sorry, I forgot that. I just went right into my speech. So that's what this bill is about. It is about making certain that our Constitution is a foundational document as it was always designed to be. I urge a yes vote. Thank you.
Representative Quorum.
Thank you, members. I think this is a good vote for rural Colorado. It's been the thing that's been asked for the most, probably in my district. So please vote yes. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion of House Concurrent Resolution 1002? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Current Resolution 1002. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. House Concurrent Resolution 1002 is passed. Mr. Kohler, please read the title to House Bill 1332.
House Bill 1332 by Representative Fisher, also Senator Hodge, concerning water management in the South Platte River Basin.
Representative Fisher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 1332 and the report from the Appropriations Committee and the committee, the report of the House Agriculture, Livestock, and Natural Resources Committee.
All right. Thank you, Representative Fisher. Let's discuss the Appropriations Committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The bill was heard this morning, excuse me, this morning in the House Appropriations. There were two amendments that were adopted. The first one set up a fund in which to receive gifts, grants, and donations and transfers of funds to be able to fund the South Platte Aquifer study. And the second amendment was to did two things. First of all, it took another $500,000 off of the fiscal note by making it permissive for the Water Conservation Board to set up to provide financial assistance to people who would authorize or apply for groundwater management pilot projects. And then it authorizes the transfer of funds from the Water Supply Reserve account in the Tier 2 of the Severance Tax Trust Fund operational account. and that's what was done. It lowered the fiscal note to $614,000, and I ask for an aye vote.
Representative Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And as I was thinking about this after appropriations this morning, well, there were a couple things that stood out. Obviously, Representative Fisher had pledged to work with DNR on this, and then this comes up in special orders, which creates a problem for me. But the question I have is, with the amendment now, it doesn't necessarily go in the regular Tier 2 stuff. It goes in the fund in which actually puts a placeholder and will take money away from our roundtables, if I understand that correctly. And Representative Fisher, that was a question to you. Did you, the way we structured the amendment, the way the amendment was structured, it no longer is part of the Tier 2, and if there's a downturn, that all of those get cut the same. The way I understand and look at this now is, essentially, we have put that at a priority, and it will take money away from, actually, the next one. The one below it would be the roundtables. Is that the way you understand it? It would take it from our the roundtables and the that was created.
Representative Fisher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not sure that that's quite the right interpretation, but there's two different accounts in the water supply reserve account. There's money that's provided to the individual roundtables, as I understand it, and then there's also a statewide pool of money that can be used for projects that are not associated with a specific roundtable.
Representative Giroux.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, Representative Fisher, what Representative Sonnenberg said was correct. It will take money away. It's basically siphoning money off for those roundtables. So what it's going to do is, if we have another downfall, which you know we're going to, that basically what you're doing is you're taking dollars away from that. The other issue I have is the same as Representative Sonnenberg's, in that you said you were going to work with the Department of Natural Resources on this bill, and then all of a sudden it shows up on special orders on second reading. So I don't, and I've checked with the department, and the working with them isn't happening. I can't support what you're doing because, number one, I think your funding source is very scary. It's very scary to go towards those Tier 2 dollars the way you're doing this. It's also very scary in the fact that what you're doing is you're circumventing the good advice of the Department of Natural Resources in the state of Colorado. And that, we may argue with departments off and on, and poor Director Birch with HICPUF has had to deal with me for years and years on this, but I do value the input from the departments. And when they say they have a grave concern about something, I stop and I listen and I give them due consideration. Members, this bill is not approved by the Department of Resources. This bill is a problem for DNR, and they've requested that they work with the bill sponsor, and thus far the bill sponsor has not worked with them, and we're up on second reading. And you, Representative Fisher, you said you would work with the department. I ask for a no vote.
Is there any further discussion of Representative Sane?
Thanks, Madam Chair. And I know there's some discussion about the funding, but I wanted to say that I've seen Representative Fisher work very hard on this bill. This is not something that was just suddenly, and I know he's trying to find funding resources for these folks, and that's part of what this fund is for. It's part of what this fund is for. Is this is an emergency in this area, and I've seen Gilchrist, and I've seen some of the issues they've had with the liners in their sewer treatment plant, and this is a direct result of too much water that hasn't historically been in that particular area. And so I've seen Representative Fisher work very, very hard on this bill. So I think he has been reaching out to everybody he possibly can, and we are down to the last couple weeks here, folks. So there's only so much time we have to discuss it. So I hope we can let this bill move forward, and I know Representative Fisher will continue to work on it, as I've seen him do in the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Thank you.
Representative Coram.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that was great news to find out that there's too much water on the eastern slope. Perhaps you will take your eyes off that water on the western slope. Maybe that letter that I saw this week printed in the Daily Sentinel for all the water utilities over here demanding more Trans Mountain diversions in the Colorado Water Plan. But the fact is, this is a bad bill. It is a bill that is not needed. We have a system in place to take care of this problem. We were told in the committee that if these people, and I take empathy with them, that they have water in their basements, but they can get a dewatering permit in about 7 days. This problem's been going on for a long time. No one, not single one person, has applied for a dewatering permit. What they really want to do is circumvent the priority water system and use that water for beneficial use. That is not necessary. It is against the Colorado priority water system. Colorado Water Congress is opposed to this bill. DNR is opposed to this bill. Colorado River District is opposed to this bill. Colorado Farm Bureau is opposed to this bill. This is something that can be done without legislation, and we should not take funds away from our roundtables and our groups that are trying to do the right thing with Colorado water law. And please vote no on this bill.
Representative Fisher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just would renew my request for an aye vote on the Appropriations Committee report. We're talking about the funding mechanism here, and regarding my interest in working with the Department of Natural Resources, I am totally open to sitting down with them. There's a process for that. There's a long way for this bill to move before it would be finally adopted. It will go over to the Senate. If it passes out of the House, there will be opportunities to sit down and work with the Natural Resources Department there. But the reality is, this is a House bill, and we're down to 2 weeks left in the session, and so there's not a heck of a lot of time left to let this bill sit any longer in the House, and so I would ask for an aye vote on the Appropriations Committee report.
Is there any further discussion on the Appropriations Committee report? Representative Sane.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'm just going to say this. I don't think this was to Appropriations Committee, but because it was said
well, Representative Sane, we are just on the Appropriations Committee report.
But you did allow Representative Quorum to say it, so I just want to say this very briefly. Members, if our argument is about irresponsible farmers, that they're greedy, they want to use this for beneficial use, I don't think that's the right argument.
We're just on the Appropriations Committee report. You'll be able to speak to the bill in a minute. So let's just keep your... Thank you. Are there any further discussion on the Appropriations Committee report? Representative Rankin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the Appropriations Committee report and to the larger bill, you know, there was a strike blow on this
Representative
bill.
Rankin, we're just discussing the Appropriations Committee report at this time.
On the Appropriations Committee report, you know, the money that was allocated has been changed, you know, which is a result. It results in the bill itself taking a different nature. Madam Chairman, I move we send this bill back to the Agricultural Committee for to hear testimony again based on the changes that have occurred.
Representative Rankin, are you making a substitute motion?
I am, Madam Chairman.
And the substitute motion is to return the bill to the Agriculture Committee?
Yes, Madam Chairman.
Is there any discussion on the substitute motion? Seeing no discussion, the question, Representative Fisher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, I would just respectfully ask for a no vote on this. I don't want to argue it. It's a debatable motion. I would just ask for a no vote, please.
Representative Giroux, just on the motion to send to agriculture.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for that clarification. I appreciate that. Colleagues, I support the motion to send the bill back to Ag. The reason Representative Rankin has made the motion is it's a process issue. The bill The original bill was heard, testimony was taken, there was a strike below. This is a new bill. And a new bill, and because it was a strike below, and the bill sponsor admitted that it was a new bill, and with that new bill, those testimony has not taken place on this new bill. I ask for an aye vote on this substitute motion to send it back to Ag.
Representative Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And although the motion is a proper one and one, but the chair of the committee is the sponsor of the bill, I urge you to vote yes, simply because here's the issue. The issue was we came in we started committee at 2 that day, we ended at 10:20. At the end of the day, we had a strike below and a number of other changes. We had a number of changes this morning, amendments offered in Appropriations Committee, and where we have a whole new bill. And the truth is, if we want to work with DNR, if we want to work with those people that are impacted by this, I think we need to continue to have that discussion. This quite frankly isn't ready for prime time, and it continues to be a moving target. Water Congress Monday looked at it, decided it had the opportunity to change its position from an oppose. I think there's a possibility we can get there, but we can't get there doing it here on the floor. We need to get there with the stakeholders in the committee room. So I'd ask for a yes vote.
Representative Buck.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I have to tell you, my frustrations on this bill it showed in committee. This bill, after so much testimony and deliberation, then to have a strike below, and I'm still continuing getting more information on this bill. I would really appreciate, colleagues, if we could send this back to Agriculture so we can have more discussion and more stakeholders at the table. So I ask for a yes vote on this.
Is there any further discussion on the substitute motion? Seeing none, the motion before us is a substitute motion to send House Bill 1332 back to the Agriculture Committee. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. The substitute motion is lost. Back to the Appropriations Committee report. Is there any further discussion on the Appropriations Committee report? Seeing none, all those in favor of the Appropriations Committee report say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The Appropriations Committee report is passed. To the Agriculture Committee report, Representative Fisher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hope my voice can hold out here. Not a good day for trying to sell your bill. What happened in the Ag Committee was that we started out with a bill that would implement most of the recommendations of a study called the House Bill 1278 study that was passed in 2012 with bipartisan support to look in detail at high groundwater management issues in the South Platte Basin. So that study took 2 years and was submitted to the legislature in December, and it contained a number of important recommendations that were put into the form of a bill, which I offered after a tremendous number of meetings and working with interested stakeholders to craft a bill. And that bill was fairly broad in scope, comprehensive in nature, and we realized when we got in to the process of holding multiple stakeholder meetings throughout the basin that it was too much to do this year. And so the Ag Committee report narrows the scope of the bill. It's a strike below amendment to the bill, which narrows the focus to really just two things. Provides assistance to people in the South Platte Basin who are impacted by high groundwater high groundwater levels, and also continues the part of the process of the House Bill 1278 study. One of the recommendations there was to make a better, more robust monitoring well program or network in the basin. And those are essentially the two things that are left in the bill from the original bill. I heard Representative Coram mention that the plan is to put water to beneficial use by pumping wells and applying it to irrigation. That has been taken out of the bill. What would happen now is that the strike below authorizes up to 5 groundwater management pilot projects in the basin limited to areas that are impacted by high groundwater in the basin for two purposes. One, to again try to provide relief to people who are suffering from these high groundwater levels, and also to incorporate these pilot projects into a study of how the aquifer responds to groundwater pumping. And so I just ask for an aye vote on the Ag Committee report.
Representative Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And members, there is absolutely no question that we need the study, we need to gather the data, we need to do some of those aspects in that bill. Unfortunately, what we're doing is creating more bureaucracy. We're creating a special advisory group to work with the independent or with the Water Institute at CSU, when we already have a roundtable, a South Platte roundtable that can deal with that. So, Madam Chair, I move L018 and ask for it to be displayed.
The amendment is properly before us. Please proceed, Representative Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is one of the bigger issues we've created, and the bill creates that bureaucracy. We have a South Platte roundtable that's made up of folks up and down the South Platte. And essentially, this is the same amendment that I ran in the Ag Committee, which says, look, South Platte roundtable, you work with the Institute, you're already doing this. Work with the Institute on this study. Let's not create another bureaucracy. I ask for a yes vote.
Is there any further discussion? Representative Fisher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the intent of this amendment, but I respectfully ask for a no vote. I know this is difficult if you haven't been involved in water issues, especially in the South Platte Basin. The South Platte Roundtable has set up a process by which they will take responsibility for implementing some or maybe all of the recommendations of the House Bill 1278 study in the coming years. They've laid out a time schedule and a process by which they will take on this responsibility, which I applaud and really feel is a great idea. So that process is moving forward. The roundtable is heavily involved right now in the development of the Colorado Water Plan, and probably will not be able to get started on any of the issues around the House Bill 1278 study until later this year. And I just believe that there's some action that needs to be taken this year, and that's why I don't want to turn this completely over to the South Platte Roundtable, but to the work that the Roundtable is planning to do needs to be informed by the science, and the groundwater management pilot projects, along with the installation of the monitoring well network, will inform the work that is going to be coming forward done by the Roundtable. So I would just ask for a no vote on this amendment.
Is there any further discussion on Amendment L018? Seeing none, the question before us is on the floor amendment L018. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no? No. L018 is lost. Back to the Ag Committee report. Is there any further discussion from the Agriculture Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the committee report from Agriculture Committee. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The Agriculture Committee report is passed. On to the bill now. House Bill 1332, Representative Fisher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, with the adoption of the committee report really is the bill because it was a strike below amendment in the Ag Committee report, so I ask for an aye vote on House Bill 1332.
Representative Giroux.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, to me, this is all about process, and what process does is it helps create good policy. We've got a bill before us right now, House Bill 1332. It deals with water issues. And I know water issues a lot of times will make your eyes glaze over, and I get that. It's probably tougher to deal with than the budget. But what you need to know about this bill is the Department of Natural Resources wanted to work with the bill sponsor. They asked to work with the bill sponsor.
Representative Giroux, it's inappropriate to call out a particular representative, so I'd ask that you refrain. Representative Giroux.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not quite sure how I can say the Department of Natural Resources wanted to work on this bill, and the person or the entity that would be working with the bill, with that department, refused or apparently has refused because this bill is up on second order. Yes, Madam Chair.
Please refrain from specifically talking about a representative.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually wasn't specifically talking, nor did I name anyone, but thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate that correction. So, Colorado Water Congress does not support this bill. The Department of Natural Resources did not support this bill. This has to do with water issues. This bill was a strike below. The bill that was introduced is not the bill that is being voted on today. When you get that many signs that a bill is in trouble, that's usually a sign that the process isn't working and that the policy that produced from that bad process is going to be a bad bill. I'd ask for a no vote. Members, I never marry my bills. I don't. I ask for a no vote.
Representative Sane.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I would like to say that folks on both sides of this issue, this is like family fighting against family, and then sometimes this is the process. And I have to say I've been part of this conversation for a very long time. This is not a bill that came up suddenly. And a lot of the amendments that were offered in the Agriculture Committee were to address some of the concerns by the opposition. So I know that the sponsor's been working to mitigate some of those concerns. I have as well. But members, it should give you some kind of caution when you're hearing some farmers are irresponsible because they haven't done this watering permit, this e-watering permit, because they can only get it in 7 days. Well, that's not all the story. And if you visit some of these areas, you will see that it will be 4 miles to get all these pipes to the river. You'd have to have some kind of amazing eminent domain to get those pipes through to get it dewatered that quickly. And of course we see how eminent domain is not a real popular subject, but to get pipes under and over roads and private property, that's why dewatering is not an option for a lot of these folks. It's not because they're irresponsible and not trying to find a way to be able to fix this problem, but this conversation stalled over the years, and I will say it's years. It's years in discussion. So this bill is a long time in the coming. So I do want to let you know that it's not these folks being irresponsible. It's also not these folks being greedy. It's also not because they just want to put the beneficial use, which is not in this bill. It's not in this bill. These folks are just seeking a solution. And so this bill shouldn't gore anybody's ox. A lot of those funds in the funds that this is coming from, this is used for times of emergency. So I just want to let you know, I think that is a bad argument to say these are greedy and irresponsible farmers and that's why they want this bill. This is a real problem. Town of Gilchrist has a real problem. It's not just farmers. They are busting their budget right now with some of this high groundwater issues with their sewer, and they don't know what they're going to do right now. So a yes vote is a vote for the folks in Gilchrist and some of these folks that are suffering right now. So I appreciate your time.
Is there any further discussion on Representative Sonnenberg?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, members, let me explain a little bit. First of all, you don't necessarily have to have pipes to dewater. Don't have to have pipes straightened across ground. There's a network of ditches and canals. You can pump directly in ditches and canals and get it back to the river. Members, the key here is, yes, there is a problem. But what this bill does is does not put any sideboards on those 5 projects. So can they pump 1,000 acre feet? Can they pump 10,000 acre feet? Can they pump 100,000 acre feet? And if I have the dewatering well here and a quarter of a mile down the stream, I just happen to have the ditch, can I use that water? All we have asked for is to put some sideboards on this. Now understand also that you can have dewatering wells and you don't need this bill. State Engineer's Office said there have been 0 applications for dewatering wells with regard to ag land. We can apply for dewatering wells for ag land that hasn't been done, and the state engineer actually said that they would issue those dewatering wells in the 7 days that Representative Sane was talking about. But you don't have to have the pipes to do the dewatering. You can dewater into a ditch. You can dig a ditch, for crying out loud. Members, this bill isn't ready for prime time. Do we need to do some things? Do we need to gather more information? We have a lot of information, no question. We have had a ton of South Platte studies and ongoing studies now. Do we need more specific studies? Yes. Do we need a new bureaucracy to do those studies? No. Do we need to have sideboards on this dewatering? Definitely yes. I ask for a no vote on the bill.
Is there any further discussion of House Bill 1332? Representative Sane.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just one more thing on the ditches, and I appreciate another thought as far as how we can dewater, but that was an argument in the Agricultural Committee as well. There was yes and no. Well, if we put it on the top of the ditch versus the bottom of the ditch, that's going to be a real problem. So there's an argument there too, members. So I know there's some folks have looked at every angle of this, including ditches, but for some reason that's an issue too. So if it was that simple where they can just apply for a permit, they would, members, and I have to impress it upon you. They would absolutely have applied for those permits if they could. Thank you.
Representative Coram.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The proof is in the pudding. The fact is, no one has ever tried to get a dewatering permit. Is it the perfect answer? No. But it also is the answer to dry out those basements, those wet spots in the field. We've had wet spots in the fields in my area forever. It's part of our landscape, much as it is over here. There's a program for federal funding to take care of this. You can put tile and drain. The process is there to handle this. The fact is, it's something that is not ready for prime time. We need further discussion on this, and I ask for a no vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1332. All those in favor say... Oh, a division has been called. All those not entitled to vote, please be seated. I know. All right, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1332. A division has been requested. All those in favor, please stand and remain standing in one place until the count is taken. Please remain standing. We're going to repeat the count. All right, you may be seated. All those opposed, please stand and remain standing in one place until the count is taken. House Bill 1332 is lost. All right, Mr. Kohler, would you read the title to House Bill 1066?
House Bill 1066 by Representative V. Hill, also Senator Stedman, concerning the amount of a driver's license fee that a rural county clerk and recorder may retain when issuing a driver's license.
Representative V. Hill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 1066 on the Appropriations Committee report.
Thank you, Representative V. Hill. To the Appropriations Committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the Appropriations Committee report, they found a different source of funding that had been working with the governor to fund it out of a cash fund, I believe. And so that's what the committee report did, and made it a little bit better to be able to pay for the $62,000, $61,624.
Is there any further discussion of the Appropriations Committee report? Seeing none, all of those in favor of the Appropriations Committee report say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The Appropriations Committee report is passed. Representative V. Hill, to the bill, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What House Bill 1066, it's a county clerk and recorder driver's license fee that the state offers. The state offers limited locations and times for driver's license services in rural Colorado. Some rural Colorado counties have made the decision to have their own staff trained to provide the service locally with more accessible hours for the public. And it applies only to counties under 100,000 population, where their locations for driver's license are there are 11 counties. I'm not going to read them off, but I'll just say one is in my district, which is Saguache County. And the state provides all the material but no manpower. And what this does, it just gives them a few dollars more, $3.50, I believe, so that they can run their operations and not run at a deficit. So that's what the bill does. I ask for a yes vote.
Is there any further discussion of House Bill 1066? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1066. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. House Bill 1066 is passed. Mr. Kohler, please read the title to House Bill 1352.
House Bill 1352 by Representatives Tyler and Quorum, also Senators Todd and King, concerning the management of waste tires.
Representative Tyler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm pleased to run this bill with Representative Quorum, and will allow him to introduce the bill.
Representative Quorum.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 1352 and the Transportation and Appropriations Committee reports.
Thank you. Representative Tyler on the Appropriations Committee report, or Representative Quorum?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Appropriations Committee report is lengthy, but it does something very simple. It moves money between funds. This is all cash funded, and moves it to different appropriate cash funds from the Waste Tire Fund. And I ask for your support and an aye vote.
Any further discussion of the Appropriations Committee report? Seeing none, all those in favor of the Appropriations Committee report say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The Appropriations Committee report is passed. Now to the Transportation and Energy Committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Bill Basically, it was a lot of cleanup. We changed a little language. Involved tire-derived fuel. We calculated keeping the payments level, and basically that's what we did. Maximum of $80 per ton for waste tires. So.
Any further discussion of the Transportation and Energy Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Transportation and Energy report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Transportation and Energy Committee report is passed. Representative Coram. Representative Tyler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have an amendment, L004. Ask that it be.
Did you want to move the amendment?
L004 and ask that it be displayed.
Thank you. Amendment L004 is blurrily displayed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a very technical amendment. When people print invoices for tires, they have to print it in the maximum of 15 point, and we're just making sure that the maximum applies to the software they use for point of sale and not just the printer, so I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any discussion of L004? Seeing none, all those in favor of L004 say aye. Opposed, no. L004 is passed. On one vote. All right, to the bill, Representative Coram.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I would just ask for an aye vote as amended. I started the legislation a year ago that took a lot of work over the summer, stakeholder meetings. Thankfully, my friend and colleague, Representative Tyler, was able to attend a lot of those stakeholder meetings because it's a 600-mile, 2-day trip out of my life. So I appreciate all the work that he did. He did the heavy lifting, and you know, 40% of the waste tires in the nation are in Colorado. We need to solve this problem. I believe this bill does.
Representative Tyler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also ask for an aye vote and appreciate working with my friend and colleague, Representative Coram.
All right. All those in favor of House Bill 1152, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. House Bill 1352 is passed. Mr. Kohler, please read the title to House Bill 1384.
House Bill 1384 by Representatives Pedersen and McNulty, also Senators Ulibarri and Crowder, concerning rigor-based tuition assistance for students at post-secondary institutions.
Representative Pedersen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 1384 and the Education Committee report.
Thank you. Tell us about the Education Committee report.
We passed a few technical amendments and I ask for your support.
Is there any further discussion of the Education Committee report? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The Education Committee report is adopted. To the bill, Representative Patterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have one more amendment to offer for this bill. I move L005 and ask that it be displayed.
Thanks.
I guess I should have given it to her.
Amendment L005 is properly displayed. Tell us about Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to lay over House Bill 1384 as amended, one bill.
1330, oh, I'm sorry, 1384, yes. 1384 will be laid over one bill. Mr. Kohler, could you please read the title to 1372?
House Bill 1372 by Representatives Conti and McCann, also Senator Marble, concerning unauthorized advertising for adoption purposes.
I think we better lay this one over, too. Are you going to come up? The House will be in a very brief recess.
It's your bill.
The committee will come back to order. Mr. Kohler, can you read the title of House Bill 1372?
House Bill 1372 by Representatives Conti and McCann, also Senator Marble, concerning unauthorized advertising for adoption purposes.
Representative Conti.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1372.
To the bill, Representative McCann.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, this is really a repeat of a bill that the House passed previously, but because the language in that bill conflicted with the other bill that we passed on human trafficking, Representative Conti and I have resurrected her former bill, and it's a great bill. It simply, well, it's not simple. It makes it a crime for someone to advertise a child for adoption in social media or on the internet, except for those who are authorized to do so. We do have a couple of amendments. I'm going to go.
Yeah, okay. And I would move
Representative
amendment.
Conti.
Thank you. I would move Amendment L001 and ask that it be displayed.
Amendment L001 has been moved.
Members, this bill simply removes the.
Representative Conti, I'm sorry, this is reference amendment. It has to be See, this says we're not a committee.
You guys need a minute?
I can do it, or you can do it. Yeah.
Of reference report, and we didn't have a committee report, so I'm going to have him redraft it, so go ahead.
Okay. Mr. Chair?
Representative McCann.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move L002 and ask that it be displayed.
L002 has been moved and not yet displayed. Now L002 is displayed.
Thank you,
Representative McCann.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This just changes the word advertises to advertise so that it's consistent throughout the bill. So I would ask for an aye vote on L002.
Is there any further discussion on L002? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of L002. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. L002 is adopted. To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I would also
Representative
move. I would also move Amendment L006.
L006 has been moved
This simply.
and is not yet displayed.
Okay.
Now it's displayed. Go ahead, Representative Conti.
Members, this simply removes from the printed bill, page 4, lines 13 through 19, the potential appropriations clause. It did not need to have that. It was there from the previous bill, but it did not need to have it when it came back through as 1372. So unnecessary, and that's the reason it was deleted. Ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on L006? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of L006. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. L006 is adopted. To the bill, Representative McCann.
I would move L005 and ask that it be displayed.
L005 has been moved and is now displayed. Representative McCann.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This was an amendment that we prepared at the request of Representative Stevens, just to make clear that those groups that are involved in fertility-related services would not be covered by this bill, which is appropriate. So I would ask for an aye vote on L005.
Is there any further discussion on L005? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of L005. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. L005 is adopted. To the bill. Representative McCann.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I stated, the bill is basically a reincarnation of a bill that we previously passed, and this bill is necessary in order to make sure that this particular provision is effective. We moved it into the adoption section rather than the human trafficking section, which is where it needs to be, and will make it a Class 6 felony for this type of advertising of children on the internet and in social media. So I'd ask for an aye vote.
Good bill, vote yes.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1372? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1372. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. House Bill 1372 is adopted. Mr. Kohler, could you please read the title for House Bill 1384?
House Bill 1384 by Representatives Pedersen and McNulty, also Senators Ulibarri and Crowder, concerning rigor-based tuition assistance for students at post-secondary institutions.
Representative Pedersen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I apologize. I move House Bill 1384 and the Education Committee report. Or did we already pass that? And do we? Okay.
We passed the Education Committee report.
Great. I move L005 and ask that it be displayed.
L005 is properly displayed and moved. Tell us about L005.
This amendment clarifies the makeup of the board and ensures that the funds can't be spent down completely, and I ask for your support.
All those in favor of L005 to House Bill 1384, say aye. Aye. Sorry.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. L005 is passed. Representative Fields.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, bill sponsors, for allowing me to present this amendment. I'd like to move L006 and ask that it be displayed.
L06 is properly displayed. Tell us about L006, Representative Fields.
Members, as you know, the cost of education is going up, up, and up. This is an excellent bill because what it does, it provides academic scholarships for struggling students. And on page 7, it just talks about the loans need to have a progressive repayment structure. And as you know, once you leave an institution or a college, sometimes trying to pay back that loan is hard. It's difficult. So basically, it just takes out one word. It takes out the word progressive and still allows for a repayment structure. And I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion of L06? Representative McNulty.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Fields, to be clear, your amendment doesn't prohibit that, but you wish to open up other considerations by adopting this amendment. Is that correct?
Representative Fields.
Correct.
Thank you.
All right. The motion is, or we will consider L006. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. L006 is adopted. Representative Pedersen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a bipartisan piece of legislation that creates a new source of tuition assistance supported by best practices to increase access to post-secondary opportunities and degree and certification completion, and I ask for your support.
Representative McNulty.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As the Republican eye candy on this bill, I ask for an aye vote.
All right. Representative Hobart.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'm sorry to step on the bill sponsors having the last word, but I did want to come down and say that going into committee, I was a no vote, but after listening to testimony and really understanding where this money is and the proposal to come up with a better way to use money and fund scholarships on a performance base or rigor base, I was a yes vote in committee and asked for a yes vote here on the floor.
Representative Pedersen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank Representative McNulty for working with me on this bill and not just being eye candy, but also contributing to making it better. And because we're limited to only 2 co-primes, I also want to thank the many members who came together to work on this. Representative Becker, Foote, Hamner, Duran, and Representative Salazar. Thank you so much.
This is where the music plays.
Is there any further discussion of House Bill 1384? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. House Bill 1384 passes. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
The committee will rise and report.
The House will come back to order. Mr. Kohler, please read the report of the Committee of the Whole. Mr. Speaker, Committee of the Whole begs leave report is under consideration. Following attached bills being second reading thereof and makes following recommendations thereon. House Bills 1066 amended, 1352 amended, 1372 amended, 1381 amended, 1383, 1384 amended, and HCR 1002 passed on second reading in order to gross place on calendar for third and final passage. House Bill 1332 as amended lost on second reading. Representative McCann.
Speaker, I move that the House adopt the report of the Committee of the Whole.
You've heard the motion. There is an amendment at the desk. Mr. Kohler, please read the Fisher amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole. Representative Fisher moved to amend the report of the Committee of the Whole to reverse the action taken by the committee in not adopting House Bill 1332 to show that House Bill 1332 as amended passed. Representative Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the Fisher amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole.
To the amendment, Representative Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, you know, this has been a very contentious process. I understand, and
Hold on one sec, Representative Fisher. Members, we are sitting as a House. Can you please stop your side conversations and pay attention to the conversation of the well? Thank you, Representative Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I guess it just goes to prove that what some of the folks that have been my mentors in this House have had to say, that there is no such thing as a simple water bill. And you know, I'm doing this because I think it will help property owners that are suffering from damaging high groundwater levels in the South Platte Basin, but also because it will gather additional data and improve our understanding of the alluvial aquifer, especially in limited high groundwater areas within the basin. We, as a chamber, as a legislature, approved 2 years ago the House Bill 1278 study. We've spent close to $800,000 on that study, with the expectation that when the study was completed, which it was last December, that there would be recommendations for us to consider to implement some of those recommendations about how to better utilize and maximize the beneficial use of our water resources in the South Platte Basin. This bill is a very small incremental step toward the implementation of the House Bill 1278 study. It does two things. Basically, it provides help for high groundwater areas within the basin by authorizing up to 5 groundwater management pilot projects that will be incorporated into a study of the alluvial aquifer. And then it also would provide that a basin-wide monitoring network would be installed to help inform future work on the implementation of the recommendations in the House Bill 1278 study. If the cow passes and this bill moves on to the Senate, there's opportunities to continue to work on addressing people's concerns, although I honestly believe that we have taken into account almost every concern that we've heard about the original introduced version of the bill, and I just respectfully ask for your aye vote. It's an important bill. I know a lot of folks have asked me who's supporting the bill. There are many people, agricultural producers and water providers in the South Platte Basin, and particularly in District 2, in the reach between, say, Fort Lupton and Kersey. Some of those folks are suffering, the ones that are suffering from the high groundwater levels, and we're losing good agricultural land, as well as infrastructure is being damaged by these damaging high groundwater levels. There's a group called the Groundwater Coalition who's supporting the bill, that are made up of folks in the same area. And I've been working personally on this issue for many years since I've been here in the legislature. And I'm convinced that we need to take action now on this, and I hope that you will allow us to do that and vote yes on this cow. Thank you.
Representative Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, let me start by saying thank you to Representative Fisher for his diligence and work on trying to find solutions for issues that we have on the South Platte. With that said, members, the history on this bill is such where it was introduced, we took about 8 hours of testimony, and then we had a strike below. Then it went to appropriations. We had a couple more amendments in appropriations. This indeed is a moving target. On the floor, we tried to limit the scope to what he was talking about, to doing the studies and not create a new bureaucracy. That was rejected. We also tried to send it back to committee so we could actually work on this and do something with it and find a solution. That was rejected. So the only other option was to see the bill go away. And that's what we voted to do. And with those other options off the table, I would ask that we continue with that path and vote no on the Fisher amendment. And thank you, Representative Fisher, for your diligent work.
Representative Quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I also thank Representative Fisher. You know, he has worked hard and diligent on this bill, but I think what we really need to understand through the projects bill and through 1278, CWCB has spent or committed already $2.5 million to the study on the South Platte. We were told in committee from the state engineer that if you want a dewatering permit, you can have one in 7 days. Now, I'm from an area that is very used to high groundwater areas in some places. And for as long as I am old, we've been using a project called the NCRS. It's a government program that helps you put in tile drainage to alleviate that problem of that high groundwater. To my knowledge, that is a process that has not been used in this area. Also, the dewatering permit has not been used. I believe that what we are doing, the legislation that we have passed in the past, gives us the opportunity to deal with this. I'm going to tell you folks, $500,000, $600,000 may not sound like a lot of money, but there's a lot of places that $600,000 can really make a big difference in other programs that we need in the state. I ask that you vote no on this cow and give the process that we have put in place a chance to work. 1278 that we passed hasn't been given time to see what it can do. Let's give it the process a chance to work and protect priority water rights in Colorado.
Representative Singh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And it's funny, there's so many solutions being proposed, and everybody says we need to do something for these folks, but not this, and not this, and not this, and not this, and not this. And that's one of the reasons why we're trying so many amendments, is so we can craft those solutions that may be agreeable to the other side. So I don't think that's a weakness. And this bill has been a long time in the making, so I did want to also extend my thanks to Representative Fisher for working so hard on this. And I heard he has been working with DNR since February. At least that's, and he has been very diligent in discussing things with folks. So this is not something that just happened or just got sprung on folks. This is a discussion that's been in the works for a very long time. And this is a pilot project. This is a localized area, true, but to study how the water moves, we do need to let science lead the way on this. And right now we've got a big question mark as far as what's actually causing this and what's happening. And so instead of just treating the symptom, we should also treat the problem. We can do this other ways to dewater, et cetera, but the problem keeps returning. We do need to have a study for that, and that's what this bill asks for. I ask for a yes vote.
Representative Giroux.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I don't want to take a whole lot of time on this. Representative Fisher, you've worked hard. But the Colorado Water Congress and DNR did not support the bill. I asked for a no vote on the cow.
Seeing no further discussion, the question for the House is the passage of the Fisher Amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representatives Everett, Mitch Bush, and Salazar. Representative Everett. Close the machine with 30 aye votes, with 29 aye votes, 36 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent. The Fisher Amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole is lost. There are no further amendments to the desk. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote on adoption of the report of the Committee of the Whole. Representatives Everett, Landgraf, Rankin, and Wilson. Close the machine. With 64 aye votes, one who doesn't think we did what we did, 0 excused, and 0 absent, the report of the Committee of the Whole is adopted. Announcements and introductions. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Due to the lateness of the floor this morning, we will move into the morning upon adjournment committees, and then we will delay the start of the afternoon committees until 2 p.m.
Representative McCann.
Just a reminder to members of the Health Benefit Exchange Implementation Review Committee, we are meeting at 7:30 tomorrow morning in room 112, so I'll see you tomorrow at 7:30.
Representative Young.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, it must be Greeley Day today. We had the Greeley Corral down earlier this morning, and now we have two of our city council members. Rob Cassidy is here, and a former Senate, yes, Mr. Minority Leader, former Senate President and current Mayor of Greeley, Tom Norton, if you would extend acknowledgement to them.
Representative Singer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Local Government will see you at 2 instead of 1:30.
Representative Ryden.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the State Veterans and Military Affairs Committee, we will be meeting in 10 minutes over in LSB. We have 4 bills up today. House Bill 1343 for action only, House Bill 1387, House Bill 1385, and Senate Bill 157. Thank you.
Related to state affairs, effective for today only, Representative Giroux will replace Representative Dorr on State Veterans and Military Affairs Committees for today's meeting. Representative Court.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Okay, Finance, that's at 2 o'clock. We will go in the order on the calendar. Senate Bill 151, House Bill 1360, House Bill 1374, and then House Bill 1375.
Representative Hamner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the Education Committee, we do have 5 bills on our schedule today, and we will be meeting in 10 minutes in our usual place. You might want to make arrangements to have lunch brought in for you. Thank you.
Representative Duran.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Joint Budget Committee is going to resume at 2:30, and then tomorrow Appropriations Committee is meeting at 8 a.m. Any bills that get out of committee today and are referred to appropriations, we will review them tomorrow morning.
Representative Tyler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know that members of our Transportation Committee are really bright and pay attention all the time, but just to reinforce that, 2 o'clock, not 1:30. We'll meet at 2 o'clock. Thank you.
Members, just a reminder on schedule. Today is what, Wednesday? We may be on the floor tomorrow afternoon. We won't know until tomorrow, but there's a chance we won't come back tomorrow. But do expect to be here probably into the afternoon on Friday. Don't expect to get out before lunch on Friday. And then next week, just a recommendation as we're into the last full week of the session, don't expect anything anytime. Keep your calendars as clear as possible because we probably will be here many evenings, afternoons, lunches, breakfasts. We'll just be seeing a lot of each other next week, so just expect that. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House stand in recess until 1 p.m. This afternoon, at which point we will adjourn until 9 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Seeing no objection, the House will stand in recess till 1 p.m. today.